Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Vishnupada Brahma himself, Vajracharya, Shtadharashata Shesham with his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. All glories to the simple devotees, all glories to the simple devotees, all glories to the simple devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Eighth Canto, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations, Chapter 1, the Manus, Administrators of the Universe, Text 11. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Please repeat after me. Yam pashyati na pashyantam chakshur yasya na rishyati tam bhuta nilayam devam suparnam upadavata yam pashyati na pashyantam chakshur yasya narishyati tambhuta nilayam devam suparnam upadavata yam pashyati na pashyantam chakshur yasya narishyati tambhuta nilayam devam suparnam upadavata yam pashyati na pashyantam Chakshuyasya narishyati Tambhuta nidayam devam Suparnam upadavata Okay, word by word. Yam, he who. Pashyati, the living entity sees. Da, not. Pashyantam, although always seen. Chakshuhu, eye. Yasya, whose. Na, never. Rishyati, diminishes. Tam, him. Buddhanilayam, the original source of all living entities. Devam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Suparnam, who accompanies the living entity as a friend. Upadavata, everyone should worship. Translation. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly watches the activities of the world, no one sees him. However, one should not think that because no one sees him, he does not see, for his power to see is never diminished. Therefore, everyone should worship the Supersoul, who always stays with the individual soul as a friend. Purport. Offering prayers to Krishna, Śrīmatī Kuntīdevī, the mother of the Pāṇḍavas, said, Alakshyam sarvabhutanam antarbahir avishtitam. Krishna, you reside both inside and outside of everything, yet the unintelligent conditioned souls cannot see you. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that one can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead through Jnana Chakshusha, eyes of knowledge. He who opens these eyes of knowledge is called a spiritual master. Thus we offer our prayers to the spiritual master with the following shloka. Om Jnana Timanandasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshulanmaditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, who with the torchlight of knowledge has opened my eyes, which were blinded by the darkness of ignorance. Tamiya Tantra. The Guru's task is to open the disciples' eyes of knowledge. When the disciples awaken from ignorance to knowledge, he can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead everywhere, because the Lord actually is everywhere. Andantarasta paramanu chayantarastam. The Lord resides within this universe. He resides within the hearts of all living entities, and He resides even within the atom. Because we lack perfect knowledge, we cannot see God, but a little deliberation can help us to see God everywhere. This requires training. With a little deliberation, even the most degraded person can perceive the presence of God. If we take into account whose property is the vast ocean, whose property is the vast land, how the sky exists, how the numberless millions of stars and planets are set in the sky, who has made this universe and whose property it is, we should certainly come to the conclusion that there is a proprietor of everything. When we claim proprietorship over a certain piece of land, whether individually or for our families or nations, we should also consider how we became the proprietors. The land was there before our birth, before we came to the land. How did it become our property? Such deliberation will help us understand that there is a supreme proprietor of everything, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always awake. In the conditioned stage, we forget things because we change our bodies. But because the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not change his body, he remembers past, present, and future. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4.1, Imam vivasvate yogam puktavan aham avyam. I spoke the science of God, this science of God, Bhagavad Gita, to the sun god at least 40 million years ago. When Arjuna inquired from Krishna how he could remember incidents that had taken place so long ago, the Lord answered that Arjuna was also present at that time. Because Arjuna is Krishna's friend, wherever Krishna goes, Arjuna goes. But the difference is that Krishna remembers everything, whereas the living entity like Arjuna, being a minute particle, the Supreme Lord forgets. Therefore it is said, the Lord's vigilance is never diminished. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15.15. Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishtamata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead and his Paramatma feature is always present within the hearts of all living entities. And from him come memory, knowledge, and forgetfulness. This is also indicated in this verse by the word Suparnam, which means friend. In the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, it is therefore said, Va Suparna Suyuja Kaya Samanam Viksham Parishashvajate. Two birds are sitting on the same tree as friends. One bird is eating the fruit of the tree, and the other is simply observing. This observing bird is always present as a friend to the eating bird and giving him remembrance of things he wanted to do. Thus we take into account the Supreme Personality of Godhead in our daily affairs. We can see him, or at least perceive his presence everywhere. The words chakshur yasya na rishati mean that although we cannot see him, this doesn't mean that he cannot see us. Nor does he die when the cosmic manifestation is annihilated. The example is given in this connection that the sunshine is present when the sun is present, but when the sun is not present or when we cannot see the sun, this does not mean that the sun is lost. The sun is there, but we cannot see it. Similarly, although we cannot see the Supreme Personality of Godhead in our present darkness, our lack of knowledge, he is always present, seeing our activities. As the Paramatma, he is the witness and advisor, Upadrashta and Anumanta. Therefore, by following the instructions of the spiritual master and studying authorized literatures, one can understand that God is present before us, seeing everything, although we have no eyes with which to see him. Om Gyanativarandasya Kananjana Shlakaya Chakshulan Maditandena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Mukham Kativachalam Pangam Langayate Gidamikripatamaham Bande Shri Gurundini Tadanam Vancha Kapadravishya Kripa Sindhivavacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, translation once more. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly watches the activities of the world, no one sees him. However, one should not think that because no one sees him, he does not see, for his power is never diminished. Therefore, everyone should worship the Supersoul, who always stays with the individual soul as a friend. Yes, Krishna is everywhere. That's what this purport's talking about. Krishna is everywhere. And he's within everyone's heart. He's in every atom. And in the heart of all the living entities, he's there as a friend, and he's trying to help his friend, the soul, trying to help the soul to turn towards him or help him become closer to him. And if we think about it, it's quite amazing that he's in the heart of everyone. Because when we think about people, we may think of people, and sometimes we think of people and we just think, oh, that person's just like purely evil. Of course, it's hard to find someone who's purely evil. It's usually like a mix of good and bad. But when we see certain people, we think, wow, that person's practically purely evil. But Krishna is even in the heart of them. Or we may see someone and we think, oh, that person's not purely evil, but at least they're sinful. Or at least say they're degraded by their activities. You think, oh, Krishna's really in the heart of them. But yeah, he's in the heart of everyone, and that's what that's what's being mentioned here. And he's seeing everything. Within the heart, he's seeing everything. He knows everyone's motives. He knows everyone's desires. He knows what people are thinking. He knows what everyone's thinking. So he's aware of all of this as the Supersoul. So, again, when we think of him being in the heart of everyone, he's in the heart of the Brahmin, the qualified, learned Brahmin. And he's also in the heart of the prostitute. He's there also. Srila Prabhupada tells a story about that. He says that there was once a Brahmin who was doing his yagyas. That's what Brahmins do. They sit around, do their yagyas, putting ghee in the fire and chanting mantras, swaha. And at one point, he's chanting on his beads, Hare Krishna, and then he was taking his prasadam and, doing all these Brahmin things, right? Reading. So he was doing that, but then across the street, I guess the society wasn't exactly divided at that time. Maybe he was living in a bad area, or I don't know, but across the street there was a prostitute there, and due to unfortunate circumstances, she was in that situation, and she and that's how she would support herself. And so, like that, there were men, going there regularly, and so this was just one side of the street, one side of the street. So the Brahmin, he was always thinking, that prostitute, and she's so degraded, and she's so fallen, and it's just really disgusting, and this and that. He was always just thinking about this prostitute and her activities. That's what he was absorbed in. Although he was doing, swaha, 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 he was just thinking, And Srila Prabhupada explains that he wasn't like attracted, he was just kind of, but always absorbed. And then he was reading, he was thinking. So, like this, he was constantly thinking. And then she was across the street, and she was looking across the street, and she said, that Brahmin, he's such a good Brahmin, and he's doing his yagyas, and he's reading, and he's taking the Lord's prasadam, and he's such a great soul. I'm so fallen, and I'm in this particular situation, and he's so exalted. So she was always thinking about him and his righteous activities. We see sometimes in ancient Indian civilization, even modern Indian civilization, sometimes these even some of these prostitutes have piety, thinking about God and religion. And there's one devotee, he brought me to Calcutta, and this Srila Prabhupada mentions a famous prostitute and how she built this wonderful temple in Calcutta. It's a very beautiful temple, the Radha Krishna temple. Anyways, so she was always thinking about him and his righteous activities. So then, so time passed, and the time of death came, and what happened was she got the credit for his activities. She got all the credit, and he got all the bad credit for her activities. That's what happened. Very interesting. So that's one thing we could learn. But can anyone think of any other things we could learn from that? Because there's other things we could learn from that. What do you think we could learn from that story? Yeah, it's not the externals, but the consciousness of a person. Yes, that's true. Where, don't live in a bad part of the neighborhood. I knew somebody was going to say that. So yeah, like Govardhan was saying that it's not the externals, but the consciousness. So yeah, that's important. Rupa Goswami, he talks about that. Atyahara priyasa cha prajopa niyamagraha chanasanga chalalyam cha shadbir bhakti vanashati. So he says niyamagraha, which of course can be broken down into two different meanings. One being just to give up the rules and regulations. Another one is to follow the rules and regulations, but mechanically or without heart. So that's what the Brahmin was doing. He was just, swaha, swaha, but his mind was completely somewhere else. Any other things?
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Yes, please, Vijay, Kṛṣṇa, Das.
Yes, this pastime, thank you, Prabhu, you're most kind. This pastime reminds me of the shloka that Lord Krishna chants in his Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, where we find that he says that even people of inferior birth can approach me, like women, Vaishyas, and Shudras.
Okay, thank you for your contribution.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Ramapati saying yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajantan, was it kalevaram? Yeah, tum tum. Yeah, so whatever we think of at the time of death, we get a corresponding reaction or birth, so that's there. Yes, Chad?
Hare Krishna. Seemed like he was indirectly, or whatever you want to say, associating with her. So
yeah, that's true.
Association.
Yeah, that's true. He was associating with her. Although, yeah, from a distance, he was across the street. But yeah, he was associating with her. That's true. Just like there's that story that I think someone told the other day. I think Dharma Sage Prabhu told that there was these two, renunciates, and they're crossing the river. Then, of course, you wonder, anyways, but they're crossing a river. It's like, well, where's the boatman, or like, where's the bridge? I don't know, but they just said, small river, small creek or something. Anyways, they're crossing, and this woman needed help across, so the renunciate said, okay, hop on my back. So then she jumped on his back, and then he crossed the small little river, and then she said thank you very much, and she went her way, and then the two renunciates went their way. So then one of them was like really angry, the one who didn't carry the woman. He was very angry, and then eventually the one who carried the woman said, "What's wrong? You seem very upset. Like what's your problem?" And then that other one said, "Well, I just can't believe you did that. We're renunciates. We're supposed to be living by brahmacharya principles, and you carried a woman on your back. That's not good. That's you don't do that." And then the one said, "Well, I carried her for a couple minutes. You've been carrying her for the last 45 minutes or whatever, however long we've been walking. So yeah, that principle of association. He was associating with her, although he was across the street. So yeah, that's there too."
Another thing is Bhakti doesn't depend on your learning. It's the goal in the process. So should it be simple, not making offenses?
Yeah. Yeah, so Dvijamani is saying Bhakti doesn't depend on one's learning. That's true. Ultimately, yeah. But it depends on, the devotion. So he was saying that she's a simple woman, and that she was just thinking of the good qualities of the Brahmin, so therefore she got so much credit. That's also true. Any other?
I have a comment.
Okay.
So I find this encouraging, because even though these two conditioned souls are meditating on something not transcendental, and as the verse points out, Krishna is everywhere. So how easy it is to perform devotional service. If we think of Krishna, he has so many pastimes he's given us just to enable that to happen. So we think of his philosophy and his pastimes, how easy it is to get absorbed, especially with the Society of Devotees and all the books. We don't have any excuses to not think of Krishna, and he rewards so generously for even a little bit of devotional service. So I find this encouraging, that even if you meditate on something mundane, it has potency. What to speak of if we meditate on Krishna?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. So we could see how generous Krishna is, that he awarded her with for this. So Krishna is very merciful. That's also, we could see that. Any other things? One thing is we could think of, don't think of nonsense or we'll get reactions. That's another thing, right? Don't think of. That's one thing. Another thing is that if we get absorbed in the thoughts of others, if we get absorbed in the faults of others, then from this exchange we could see we get the reaction. He got the reaction. He was absorbed in the faults. So, in other words, that being absorbed in the faults of others, first of all, it's too much absorption and duality. Of course, I know we do accept that duality exists, but being too absorbed in the good and bad of this world, and especially in this particular case, the bad, he got very bad reactions, the Brahmin. So that's another thing. People are going to do what they're going to do. The world's going to, the world's going to go on how it's going to go on, generally not very peaceful. So there's going to be plenty of faults to think of and meditate on, whether in our own small world or whether in the bigger world. But if we get too absorbed in those faults, then we forget about Krishna and we don't get the result. What is that? Yeah, that's true. But Chad said those, it's a quality of tamas, or not Thomas. Bhakti Thomas is tamas. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that those who are conducted by ignorance, they are very expert at finding faults with others. That's true. The Guru is also very expert at finding faults with others, but he does it in a non-envious way for the benefit of the students. So that's another thing. Another thing is that people may see, she's absorbed like that, she's going to hell. That's a general perception. And that Brahmin, he's going to heaven, or he's going to Godhead, or whatever. At the time of death, we know exactly where they're going. There's no, but we could see from this that we shouldn't be so sure. In other words, shouldn't be jumping to conclusions so quickly that yes, we know, where somebody is in their spiritual life, or where they are in their consciousness. Not so easy to know. That's another thing. In relation to that, we shouldn't claim we know. Because we could say, I know where this person is in their spiritual life. Well, how can we know? We're not Krishna. We're not in their heart as Krishna, last time I checked. So those are some things also. So it seemed that what I was thinking, maybe some of in the room weren't thinking, and then what I wasn't thinking, the people in the room were thinking. Because you came up with things that I didn't think of. So anyways, this is nice. So Krishna's in the heart, and as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brings up in the pastime of the Gundicha temple, cleansing of the Gundicha temple. It's a very beautiful pastime. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, they're throwing hundreds of pots of water on the ceiling, on the walls, on the floor, and there's some very intelligent devotees. While Lord Chaitanya was cleansing the temple, one devotee he poured some water on Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet, and then he was drinking like that. He's from Bengal, right? Because they're in Puri at the time. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says externally he was very angry with this Vaishnava, and he told Srup Damodar, take this Bengali Vaishnava out of here. He's committed offense. He's drinking the water from my feet here in the temple. Tell him to leave. So a very wonderful pastime, and they cleanse the temple thoroughly. And our acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they describe elaborately that this pastime could be seen in relation to cleansing our hearts, that there's so many things there that needs to be cleansed. And the whole point of that is to enthrone Krishna there in a very clean place, right? We don't want Krishna being in an unclean place. So he's there in our heart, but we want to make it a clean place for Krishna to be. And the more clean our heart is, the more we could see Krishna directly and indirectly, and the more we could take direction from Krishna directly and indirectly. So that's a wonderful thing. We have contact with clear contact with the Paramatma. So, okay.
And I have a comment.
Any questions or comments?
Also in that
Yes,
pastime
I have a question.
Just one. There's one question here or comment.
in the pastime of
Yes, I can wait. No
cleaning
problem.
Yes.
cleaning the Gandicha temple. Also, from what I understand, it was that Lord Chaitanya was like externally angry at that devotee, because also he was like taking like all the water like for him, and he was not sharing to other devotees who were working in the temple. So also it's like we're cleaning our heart, but we also have like to share that, that feeling, that love for God with other people, right? Can we see it in that way, or?
Did you hear that somewhere, or you're thinking?
I thought I heard that he was externally mad
Oh.
because he.
Yeah, as far as I mean, maybe that was there, but I don't remember that. I thought that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was only upset because he was taking water from his that washed his feet in the temple, and at the time, of course, we accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna coming in the mood and complexion of Śrīmatī Radharani. But he is teaching the world the behavior of a devotee. He's demonstrating the perfect behavior of a devotee. So a devotee wouldn't accept that. So that's what I thought. I don't remember hearing or reading that Lord Chaitanya was upset because he wasn't sharing the water. But the point of sharing Krishna consciousness is very important, and that is Lord Chaitanya's movement, his Sankirtan movement, to share the holy name, to share knowledge, to share prasadam, to share all the different forms of mercy that we are familiar with to as many people as possible. Will Lord Chaitanya get angry if we don't do that? Yes. I don't want to say that, but will Lord Chaitanya be pleased if we do that? Yes, he'll be very pleased. Yes. Dwijamani?
Thank you for this class. You mentioned at the end of the class how if Guru is also an expert, how did you say?
Fault finder.
Fault finder, yeah. Is that the correct understanding that Guru is finding fault only with his own disciples, so those people who are accepting shiksha from him, for example? He's not going to just find it within everyone and tell everyone off,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, because the whole guru-disciple relationship, it's based on an agreement, pretty much. Like you signed a contract, the contract of initiation. You may have not signed it, but you made your vows. You accepted this person as your guru, so he has the right to correct you. Now, of course, in relation to like a shiksha guru, if somebody accepts somebody as a shiksha guru, formally or informally, then they also have that relationship that, hey, it's a contract in which, that's one of the understandings that I could point something out that I think needs to be changed. Of course, in relation to the hierarchy or the lowarchy, I don't think that's a word, right? Lowarchy. Yeah, we'll make it a word. The lowarchy of ISKCON or the hierarchy of ISKCON. Don't want to. Right, we're all supposed to be as humble as a blade of grass. The lowarchy of ISKCON. yeah, those in positions of if you want to say management or leadership, they also, it's one of their duties to see things, to see faults in the atmosphere or in sometimes in people or this and that, and try to help the situation. So yeah, but generally there has to be like an agreement on both sides, either formally or informally, some type of relationship. Otherwise, you try to correct somebody, or the guru just tries to, correct somebody, and then, people don't accept it, so what's the use? It's just, what's the use because the person's not going to accept it, and then what's the use also because they're just going to get angry, and it just doesn't make much sense. Although sometimes, in certain situations, a devotee may point something out to people. So,
also, Chakshurun Militam, on that point, how is that such a simple process of hearing can open our eyes?
How can such a simple process of hearing open our eyes? Well, if we don't understand something and somebody explains it to us, and then, of course, in Krishna consciousness, it's not just theoretically like hearing something, but if we hear something and then we apply it in our lives, and then we may, the idea is to experience it or have a realization of that. For example, you may say, they may say you're not your body, right? You hear that in day one when you walk on the door. But then through chanting Hare Krishna and other, mostly chanting Hare Krishna, then there may be some experiences where you realize, I'm not my body, I'm the soul. So, but even in the English saying, I don't know if they say it in Russia or in India or wherever, but when somebody's explaining something to another person and the person starts to understand things, they say, I see, I see. So, in other words, we weren't seeing how that was how a particular thing was important, or how a particular thing was truth, but by the process of inquiry and service to the spiritual master, then one is enlightened. One does see. So one understands through their intellect certain things. And in that way, it's a metaphor, but in that way the ignorance or the cataracts are removed from the eyes and one sees. But also, not just by inquiry, but by service, one is able to understand things. Like Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his life, one scholar came to him and he wanted to know some things, and then Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, you should go wash the pots now, and you can come back, you could ask me the question, So then he washed some pots, and then he came back, and from that service he was able to understand things. So if somebody's very ignorant, like in tamas, then they need purification of the heart to understand things. It's also there.
Thank you.
I had a question about this. It always kind of perplexed me, this idea, like, I guess it's a little derailed. Like, if Krishna created this varnashram system, did he also, like, put the system of a prostitute? Is that also part of his plan, like, in society? So, it's like, if it's supposed to be like a perfect society, why was there, like, prostitutes at, present?
When?
Yeah.
When? What are you talking about?
Like, I guess, like, in the story, I'd imagine they're following some Vedic kind of lifestyle of varnashram or something like that. And
I mean, if you look within the Varnashram system, there's Brahmins, there's Kshatriyas, there's Vaishyas, there's Shudras, and then there's the institution of Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. And there's rules and regulations for the household ashram and so on, and all the other ashrams and all the varnas. So we could see that practically from the life and activities of prostitutes, they don't fall within those categories. They did exist, but it was for, you could say, people who are overly lusty or overly bewildered by Maya. They would go to such, but they're not like, within the system. There's many people outside of the system. So, of course, you have kings who would marry, a number of women. That's another thing. Brahmins, there's not much talk about the Brahmins doing that, right? Not really. But, so that's India. Triveda Prabhu. Yeah, Tapas took him off. Yeah.
Looks like the tops are, so the blue and then the black is the... Oh, this is the...
Blue is for the audience, black is for the class giver.
Right, that's my question. Society girls. There's in Dwarka, there's society girls. The heavenly society girls. And Urvasi, who knew, who is mentioned here. Urvasi and the Apsaras, the society girls of heaven. So my understanding is that that's kind of a polite way of saying prostitutes, society girls. Does anyone have a different idea? That's true, right? Yeah. So the idea seems to me be that even in, very high society, there's a need. And it's not that they're outcast and looked down upon and kicked. There's a institution of society girls. I can't take it beyond that, but I remember reading it in the book, and it was interesting, right?
I mean, people explain it as sometimes as they may say, well, what's better, that there's certain people who fall into that category of society girls. Is that what you said? Girls? Society girls, yeah. And then there's men who are overly lusty. So is it better that they, go with other women's other men's wives? That's a lot what happens in society now, Or instead of that, if they're overly lusty, then they go to the there. Anyways, Hare Krishna. But Sankarshan, are you satisfied? You asked the question. I mean, we didn't. I'm not sure how the Varnashram talk and this and that came in relation to this class, but okay. All right, Jai, Grantrad, yes. Dvijwani? Oh yeah, Vijay. Okay, sorry. Yes, please. You're patiently waiting.
Yes, Balaram Prabhu, but Maitreya Prabhu is here. Maybe he wants to go first.
I'll let you two decide.
No, I've had my comment. You go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Well, my question is related to Krishna chanting to Arjuna in his Bhagavad Gita that women are of inferior birth. So, but what we see nowadays is that women are running for presidency of the country.
Which country?
What?
No, it doesn't matter. I'm just joking.
Well, recently in your country.
Yeah.
Kamala,
In America, that's true.
Yes, and not only
Prime
that,
Minister.
they-
The Prime Minister was a female many times in India, right? At least a couple times. Yeah. Anyways, Bangladesh also. Yes. Please keep on going.
Yes, and not only that, they fight for equal rights and all of those things. So, my question is, if a female devotee, after hearing Krishna saying that women are of inferior birth, if this female devotee is thinking about becoming temple president or temple commander or any post of the sort, is it that it would be better for her to think twice?
Temple commander, huh?
In other words, what is your take
No, I'm
on
just thinking
Krishna-
like commander. It's like, I don't know. Even that word commander, just for man, women, I don't know. It's just like commando, commander, you know. I don't know. Well,
I'm
Vijay,
sorry.
what do you think?
I think she should think twice.
Okay, all right. We've accepted your vote. Well, what does everybody else think? We'll take a vote here, right? We're in the voting world.
No, Prabhu, let me just say the following. In other words, my question is, what is your personal take on Krishna saying that women are of inferior birth? That is my exact question.
Okay, your exact question. Okay, thank you.
Can I chime in here a bit? So the new translation of the Bhagavad Gita is going to set that phrase off with commas instead of dashes, which takes women out of the inferior birth category and puts them simply in a category as women. So there are those of inferior birth, comma, women, comma. So these are the personalities that in society are very occupied doing material duties and don't have as much facility for practicing sacrifices and penances to become self-realized. Krishna is saying sincere women are just as qualified, and they also are just as able to perform the activities of self-realization. But the idea that women are lower is a materialistic concept, and in a spiritual society like ISKCON, we should completely distance ourselves from that. We don't ever say women are inferior or have an inferior birth. That mentality is disgusting, and Srila Prabhupada didn't demonstrate that at any time. That's my comment.
All right, thank you. Yeah. Well, I mean, this particular question, it really does take. I mean, if you really want to give the question justice, it really does take a whole class to answer. And this is the end of the class. It's not the beginning of the class. So I can't answer that just in a few minutes. I actually prepared a whole class on that. I spent at least an hour preparing a class on this particular question, more or less. But what happened was that somebody told me the wrong verse. It was the other day. So I came and I sat here and I was about to give this presentation that I looked up different acharyas, commentaries, and I listened to different short talks on it, this and that. And then when I sat here, to give a class on the morning, it wasn't even the verse. So yeah. Huh? Oh, you want to say it in the... Does anybody else want to?
Well, he's talking about editing.
Maitreya. Because that verse, Mam Partha Vipashrita Yebisi Papayonia, Sriyo Vaishya Shudras Teti Anti Paramgatim, means that the way that Baladevi Vijabhushan understood it, and the way Prabhupada actually gave it, it didn't that those who are lowborn, and then in that category are women and Vaishyas and Shudras, even they can approach. This is another problem. Prabhupada would use the word approach to mean attain. You can approach the spiritual world by chanting Hare Krishna. But that in the common lingo, that means you're not in yet. You just approached. If I approach the ticket counter, it doesn't mean that I can go in to see the movie. But what Prabhupada meant by approach is will attain. And that's what it says. Those who take shelter of me, whether they are one, and this is what keyed it off, born of Papayoni. You're going to say that all women are Papayoni? You know, Gandhari is Papayoni? Papayoni means you're born in a sinful family and you're sinful. No, that's not what Prabhupada meant, and that's what the Acharyas say. So you have these four different kinds, the low-born, four different low-born, the women, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras. If they take shelter of me, they will attain the spiritual world.
What's the word that is used for women in that? And that's the
Vaishya. What is it? Striya Vaishyas.
Yes.
Striya. You know. But now I just found something else about society girls, and then I'll just end with this because I know it's good. In common lingo, they're not prostitutes in English, but Prabhupada used that word society girls to mean prostitutes. Free mingling with women has never been possible in India, but for one who wanted to associate with society girls, they were available in a district of prostitutes. There were prostitutes in human society, even in Lord Krishna's time, for it is said that the prostitutes of Dwarka came forth to receive the Lord. Although they were prostitutes, they were also devotees of Krishna.
Yeah, it's interesting how the Acharyas, sometimes they translate this verse that we're talking about. But yeah, they give also different translations, different commentaries on the verse. Prabhupada also translates it different places. In the Bhagavatam, a number of places he translates it different. And then also in the what is it? I think it's not the Bengali. What is that? Prabhupada, he wrote what is it called? Gita. Yeah. So it was like translated, or there was some translation where Prabhupada, he translated it as prostitute. He translated. So anyways, like this, there's a lot of translations and commentaries and this and that, and I had a whole paper on it, so I didn't remember I don't remember much of that, and I don't want to get into all the details because, you know, this. But, all right, Vijay Krishna.
Yes, Balaram Prabhu, just one last thing. Because of the debate that just happened, your take on it, Maitreya Prabhu's take on it, and Dravida Prabhu takes on it, I dare to add to the debate the question related to the most recent controversy, at least in ISKCON. Is it that Maitreya Prabhu, you yourself, Maitreya Prabhu and Dravida Prabhu, are in favor of women becoming gurus in ISKCON? Of course, no need to give me an answer now because our time is over, but I would like to add such a question.
The most recent controversy, you're talking about the female guru. Is that what you're talking about?
Female guru, exactly.
Okay. I was thinking, I don't know, maybe there was a more recent... Am I missing something?
In a class, and he said, you should all become spiritual masters. And there were women in the class. So that's my take on it. I'm not going to go.
Okay. Yeah, so you could understand Vijay Krishna. That's also another quite a topic that takes a lot of, you know.
Of course, Prabhu.
So when do you want us to answer these?
What are you asking?
Well, what? Anyways, all right. We'll stop there. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.